kind of see what I'm doing. Maybe let me lower this a little bit. Wish I could tilt it. I might be able to. No, I don't think so. Wait, maybe? No. Okay, yeah, no. Okay, we did our best out here. So, essentially, today, I'm going to be making curry. Now, it's obviously a lot easier to make curry when I have the right things available to me. Am I crooked? I feel like I might be crooked. Also, I don't know if I'm allowed to have knives on YouTube. So we'll find out. Let me try to get this straightened out because I feel like it was crooked. Okay, so I guess just to make sure, whenever you're dealing with a knife, please be very, very careful. I don't want anyone to get hurt, and I don't want to be the reason that anyone gets hurt. I think we're all adults here, so we know how to use a knife, but be careful, you know, and don't report this video because, please. Cool. So when it comes down to making curry, there's a few steps we got to take. Let me grab. Is this the right lid? Yes. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is you obviously have to thaw out your chicken. One of the things that I like to do when I'm thawing out my chicken, I don't typically like to leave it in water. However, this particular time I am, just because there's so much of it that it's just not thawing correctly. But one of the things that I like to do to almost like speed it up while also infusing the flavors is I like to put a semi-marinade on it while it's de-thawing, just to kind of start getting the flavors. Now, basically all that's in here is some vinegar for like a tenderizer. There's salt and pepper and then a little bit of curry powder in here. You don't want to do too much, and I'll talk about that later as to why. But I'm just trying to get a little bit of flavor infused into the chicken. So really what I'm worried about is tenderizing it with the vinegar and also getting the salt to kind of get in there. I don't know if you guys have ever had a dish where you're eating it. It tasted great, except the chicken for some reason tasted like it didn't really have a lot of flavor. Like the outside did, but the inside didn't. Essentially what that means is the chicken wasn't brined well enough and didn't have enough salt that penetrated the chicken. So essentially that's what I'm doing is I got the vinegar in there to tenderize it, to basically open up the chicken's pores. It does a lot more than that, but vinegar is a great tenderizer, apple cider vinegar to be exact. And then after it opens up, the salt is able to penetrate. And another thing people will do is they'll just literally brine chicken, where they'll take it and stick it in salty water for a long period of time so that all the flavors will get in there. If you ever have been to Costco, Walmart, or any other of those like shopping centers where they sell like those cooked chickens, all of them brine their chicken in some sort of mixture. Costco actually injects it as well, so they'll brine it and then they'll inject it. Hello to everybody who's watching. Feel free to ask me questions. I'll be looking at this, but I'm going to also be taking you along the process. So right now, I am boiling some water right here. So eventually what that's going to be is, I think it's in this one. Anyway, yeah, I need to start pulling that out. I have basically the rib cage of a chicken, just the bones, not the meat. All the meat has been taken off. Technically, the meat that this recipe is being made with is right there. That came off of this, the chicken bones. I'm a big proponent when it comes to cooking. Don't waste anything. One of my pet peeves when I watch people cook is there's so much flavor in everything. I don't know how I'm gonna get this off. We'll see. I've done it before, so I guess we'll get there. But I'm a big proponent of like don't waste anything. There's so much flavor in everything that you have, and a good cook knows how to extract the flavor from every ingredient instead of adding stuff to make it taste better. So I would really like to show you guys how to like extract the flavor out of this stuff, because like chicken bones, that has flavor in it that you can get out, that you can add to the meal that's going to make it taste better instead of adding more salt, sugar, vinegar, and other stuff. Now, I'm going to add that stuff to the curry, but you don't need to add as much. We can really fix that and make it better. So, I don't know how I'm going to get this off though. Okay. So I'm waiting for that water to boil over there. I'm going to show you why. Freezer was open. Well, I did that with a knife. So be careful with your knives. Yeah, so right now I'm just trying to chip the bone. Actually, do I have another set of bones that I can use instead? No, wait. Yes, I do. Boom, chicken bones right here. I'll put this back. Cool. So this will be a dinner for another night. When it comes to amount that I'm using, since I'm in Peru, I don't necessarily use weight. So I'm not thinking like this is 2 pounds of meat. If you're in the US, you might have to use weight, but essentially what I'm doing is it's around a kilo of chicken or around 2 pounds, but essentially I look for a chicken and I measure how much I'm making by how many chickens I have in it. So this is a 1 chicken curry. So essentially, this is a 2 chicken curry. So essentially per chicken, per set of breasts on a chicken, you want 1 can. So I'm gonna be doing 2 cans of coconut curry. I probably should have put this in the thing, but this is going to be dairy-free. I'm not making it dairy-free because I don't like dairy. I'm making it dairy-free because it's genuinely better this way. Coconut chicken curry, it's kind of like more of like a Thailand version of curry. Good stuff. You can actually make your own coconut cream / coconut milk. It's not that hard. I'm just kind of lazy and I don't want to do that. But essentially what you do is you buy a coconut, you need a specific coconut that's young enough to where the inside is still like gooey, like jello-y. And then I'm pretty sure you soak it and then blend it. You soak it overnight and then blend it and you end up getting coconut cream. I just don't want to go through all that process, so I just bought cans. But I might start doing that because this can here is 16 soles. This can costed more than the chicken that's going in the recipe. So if you wanted to save money, in Peru, cans are not the way to go. Cool, we got our chicken bones. But here's the first step of when you're making this. So the water's now boiling, so I can now do this. Go ahead and pull out, let's see, tomatoes. All right. So essentially, here we go, we got some tomatoes. What you want to do is, there's a few main ingredients when it comes to curry. There's whatever you're making the curry, like the main protein of the curry dish, could be chickpeas, could be chicken. The recipe doesn't change that much based off of protein, just depends on the actual preparation and when you add things. But the core are onions, tomatoes, some sort of cream, whether it's coconut, cow, yogurt, and then obviously the spices that make up curry. So we need, usually what I do is I do about 4 to 5 tomatoes per chicken. So that's gonna be 8 tomatoes. Now I'm going to teach you guys something here that I learned when I got older, but I also kind of learned it from my grandparents. So essentially, now I've got a bunch of Roma tomatoes, but I don't need the skin. Hey, how's it going, Bill? I got a bunch of tomatoes, but I don't necessarily need the skin. So what I'm going to do is you're basically going to create an X on your tomato. I don't know if you can even see this. Yeah, you can. Create an X on it on the top, on the Roma tomato on top, and then where the actual, or I guess the bottom, it depends on your perception. I consider this the top. And then the bottom of the actual tomato, or the part where the vine would be coming out of, you're going to just kind of take that off. Boom, gone. So now I have no top, like no vined piece, and then I also have an X on the bottom. So I'm going to do that 8 more times, or 7 more times, I guess, since I'm making 2 chicken. So take the head off. Unfortunately, there's not really much I can do with these. As much as I like to take the flavor out, I can give those to the dog, but there's not really much I can do. I could be a little bit more conscious about how much I'm chopping off. Like that was a good one. I barely chopped off any tomato, and I'm just kind of now going to carve the X in it. But yeah, we're going to kind of move through this as quickly as possible. Now that I got the water boiling over there, and I've got these going, I'm actually going to start showing you what I'm going to do next. Let me just finish the 4th one. We're going to do these in groups, so that way we don't overwhelm the water too much. But now that I've got 4 of these set up, what I'm going to do, I don't set a timer. You could set a timer if you wanted to, but I'm going to take the 4 of them, and I'm going to drop them in the boiling water. While I'm finishing these, those are going to be boiling, and I'll show you what we do next with those. But, so let me go get through these. But essentially what that's going to do is that's going to create That's gonna start loosening up the skin for me. And if you wanted to make like a traditional Italian sauce, that's where you would start, is by carving your tomatoes the way that I'm talking about and dropping them in water. So these tomatoes have been washed. I do recommend that you wash your tomatoes before you use them. Cool, boom. Another 4. I have more room in the pot, so I'm just gonna put them all in. You can do them in batches. Really, they're supposed to be in for about a minute. I usually go a little bit over because I just find that it's easier, and then you wanna get your colander ready. So boom, I got a colander right here. Let me clean off my workstation. Toss these in the dog bowl. Cool. Okay, awesome. So let me, I guess, bring you over here so you can see what's going on. All the dog food I got right here. So yeah, in here, got them boiling. We are working on it. I would say I'm gonna give them another like minute or two. The chicken is in water thawing. I hate doing this. You shouldn't put your meat in water if you can help it. It's a great way to spread salmonella or other meat carried bacteria around your kitchen. Most people who are like, I don't know if chefs, I've talked to a few chefs and they said don't do it, but scientifically and like FDA wise, you're not supposed to put any meat in water. So I really don't like doing that. I kind of had to. I blanked, so I didn't thaw them early enough. But yeah, so they're still kind of marinating. I can feel that they're a lot softer, not just because they've thawed, but because the vinegar is doing its work with the other spices. Now I know they look super lightly spiced. I don't even know if you can, I'll bring it over. I know they look super lightly spiced. That was on purpose. They will be spiced more later. It's just salt and vinegar. Cool. Water's a bit cold, so I'm gonna flip that out. All right. So here in Peru, I have to be extra careful. Almost done. Here in Peru, I have to be extra careful because the water isn't cleansed and purified the way that it is in the US. So I just have to cook things extra to make sure I don't get sick or parasites or anything like that. Wow, I've been going. Okay, so those are almost done. They're just not at a full boil. If you were in the US and had like a more well-controlled stove or a Western country, it might work faster. This particular stove here, this is very normal with the gas canister being right next to the stove like this. They don't have like mainline gas in my area, so we get canisters of gas that we attach to our ovens, but because it's not like an amazing oven, the heat isn't super uniform, so it's not boiling. So I just want to make sure it gets back to boiling before I take it out. Essentially, that's going to give us the maximum like looseness on the tomato skin, so they're usable. And then that will be something that I will do next. While we're waiting, I guess I can get started on this. Now we're going to need some onions. I don't really fully have enough. I like to do 2 onions per chicken breast or per chicken. So I would normally do 4. This one's kind of big though, so it's going to kind of even out. So I'm going to go ahead and chop up some onions here while we get started. There's a very specific way that I like to chop these up so that they're good for curry. Different strokes for different folks, I guess. Some people like their onions different, but I find the way that I cut them works the best in curry. So you want to cut them pretty normal start to the onion. Cut them down the middle, and then you want to get all the extra skin off, stuff that you can't use. I hate peeling this much off of the onion, but here in Peru, you got to be a little extra careful with your food. So peel them off, get that extra layer off as best you can. And honestly, I use this method of cutting onions for almost everything. I just find that they make better onions, especially like when I'm doing jellied onions or, the type of stuff that you put on top of a burger. I just find that it goes better, it tastes better. Wish I could time skip this, but I am live, so if you guys have any questions or anything you guys want to talk about, feel free. Let me drag the trash can over. table. Cool. Okay, those are back to a boil, so I'm gonna bring you over to the sink here. Okay, so we're at the sink. What we're gonna do is, I don't necessarily want to pour that water out, because now that water, as I was talking about before, I like to try to maintain as much flavor as possible. So now this water here with the tomatoes in it, now it's infused with a little bit of tomato flavor. Not a ton, but a little bit, and we don't want to waste that. Plus, we already did the work of getting this water boiling. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a slotted spoon and I'm just gonna fish these guys out and toss them in here. They're already soft. I know you probably can't see it super well, but you could probably start to see the skin receding off of the actual tomato itself. Now that that's done, I'm just gonna put these to the side real quick. And now I'm gonna take those chicken bones, and since this is already boiling, I'm gonna pop this in here. So now get the chicken bone flavor to start infusing with that water as well, and we will use that water soon. So I'm just gonna put a cap on this, let that boil, let that simmer, whatever it's doing. Throw that bag out, and then we're gonna move back to the tomatoes. Once you pull them out, you wanna give them about 20 to 30 seconds, which is about how long it took me to put the chicken bones in there. And then you're going to kind of spread them out as best you can. They're super hot. Wow. Yep. And then you want to run them under the water. Now these are going to be cooked for a while, so I don't necessarily have to worry about getting sick. You really want to, well, you guys can't even see what I'm doing. Let me maybe lower this a little bit. There we go. Sorry, super janky recording. I don't necessarily have everything I need here, but so now I'm just kind of rinsing them with cold water. Anything that I'm going to cook for longer than 15 minutes, I can put in the actual water here. But now that it is cool to the touch, they're still warm on the inside, but now that they're cool to the touch, one of the reasons why we do this, I'm going to scoot you guys up just a little bit closer here. One of the reasons why I do this, it's got the X, it's been cut on the other side, but now the skin just comes right off. Boom. So much easier. And another benefit, see now we've got a skinned and peeled full Roma tomato. Pretty much any Italian sauce starts with that. So you just watch, boom, right off, like, you know, peeling a banana. So there's two main reasons why we do it this way. The first one is, obviously, who doesn't want to make it easier to peel their tomatoes? I guess second of three, because I just thought of another reason. The second reason is, a lot of times when you peel your tomatoes on your own, like by hand, if you're not very good at it, you waste a lot of the tomato. But this way, I'm literally just getting off the skin. So the rest of the tomato is left. I use this method for almost all of the cooking that involves tomatoes. The last reason why we do this, some of them are going to be a little bit tougher. You're going to have to maybe bring a knife in to like finish them up. But usually I can figure out how to get the skin off without involving a knife. They are hot. Someone who's doesn't have fingers that have been burnt to a crisp might not be able to do this, but at this point I can't feel heat in my fingers anymore, so it's not super hot to me. But last reason is, when you actually boil a tomato and add heat the way that I did, it provides a lot of flavor into the tomato. It like basically kicks up the sugars, and it gets rid of some of the sour and bitterness. So essentially, it makes the tomato flavor better. It enhances it. So whenever you're making a sauce, maybe you're making an Italian sauce, it's gonna bring a better flavor to the sauce. Now in the US, you might have a quick kind of fix to this, which is to just buy whole peeled tomatoes. Usually when they're canned, although they do they gain a little bit of a canned flavor, they do also, they balance themselves out a little bit more in the can. But, you know, if you have your own garden and you want to use your tomatoes, your Roma tomatoes, to make like a sauce, this is how you'd go about it. That one's peeled, one last one, super easy, just comes right off. Boom, and that's done. Now that these are done, I'm just gonna let them sit and cool. I might hit them with a little bit more cold water just to let them cool off, because I'm gonna be squeezing them into a pot somewhat soon. I understand this probably isn't moving along as fast as, it's not moving along as fast as I was expecting, because usually I'm like super concentrated on this, but I'm happy to share how I make curry here. So I'm gonna get back to peeling these guys. Nothing you guys haven't seen before. But yeah, I'm wondering how you guys' days are going. Are you thinking about making curry, or are you just interested in just different cooking techniques? All are fair game here. Now, and while I'm waiting for those, any answers that might come through, one of the other things that you usually do, yes, let me grab the pot. So, for curry, this is my favorite pot. It's pretty big. But I find that the surface area on the bottom really spreads everything out in a way that you get the right char that you need. Small, like there are pots that I have that can fit this entire curry in it. It's going to be a little tight, but this will develop the flavors better because it's bigger. So just because you can fit food in a smaller pot doesn't mean you necessarily should. So this is the one I'm going to be using. Nice and clean and on the stove. What you'd usually want to do now, but I have a difficult time finding, is you would want to toss no oil in there, just a handful of mustard seeds, and allow them to toast on the bottom of the pan. Some people use oil. I don't particularly use oil. I just like to toast it in there. But you just toss them in and allow them to kind of just roast. By doing that, it's going to add an essence to the pan that's going to bring a good flavor later on. Now, mustard seeds are difficult for me to find, and I don't want to use mustard seed powder because that's going to stay in there. You know, losing a couple mustard seeds in your curry is fine, but the whole amount that you're toasting being lost in there, it's going to add a lot of flavor that you might not necessarily want. So, but mustard seeds are super easy to find in Western countries and in certain places here as well. Just in my particular area, it's pretty local, so I'm just not going to necessarily find it. Now, after that, we're almost able to cut these onions. Almost. Cool. And actually, it may not seem like it, but we're a pretty decent way through the recipe. Oh, actually, I almost missed a step. These onions aren't even next, but they do need to be chopped anyway. Cool. Let me finish peeling these. Now, you guys can't necessarily see what I'm doing, so let me lower you. Yes. Boom. A little bit more. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So, now we got the onions. We're just going to take, like normal, the little tip off, because that's not necessarily usable. Boom. 2 more. Now I wanted to cut these, but once I cut these, I'm gonna start crying I'm gonna start crying because onions mess me up because I'm a weak man. But I'm going to start doing that soon. But I want to start moving forward with the next step. So I don't have mustard seeds, so I'm gonna go ahead and toss some oil. Coconut oil is good. It's just expensive. Your next option would be like a vegetable oil, but my partner is actually allergic to soy, so this entire recipe is soy free. So next up we have sunflower oil. This is usually my go-to. I would like to use other oils, but this is my go-to just because it's cheap and it's safe for my partner. So for you, you could probably spring for soy or vegetable oil or coconut oil if you want. Coconut oil is specifically expensive here. I'm just gonna put a nice generous amount in the bottom of this pan. I don't necessarily want to coat the whole entire thing, but I want like a thick layer. See? And I'm just gonna swish this around so that it coats the bottom of the pan, but doesn't pool. A little pooling is fine and actually good, but for the general rule of thumb, you don't want to see a pool of oil. You want it to be pretty generally uniform and across the bottom. I'm gonna add more oil later, but now I'm hoping that these are defilled enough, and it feels like they are. Cool. Now I'm gonna pull the chicken out. Let me bring you back over here. Now, the typical curry way is to chop these bad boys up into cubes. So, let's put the onions to the side. Take the chicken. This could get a little messy depending, But we want to take the chicken. My hands are going to get dirty. How am I going to go about this without spreading disease? Yeah, so really what you want to do, to get in here and do it. What you want to do, pull the chicken out. It's got nice seasoning on it. Honestly, this is kind of the perfect amount because it's not like super soft, but it's hard enough to where the slight iciness is actually going to help me cut it. So now I just want to kind of like get this into cubes. They don't have to be perfect cubes. They can be rough cubes, but we want cubes is essentially what people are expecting when it comes to curry. So just lines, do rows and columns across. Boom. And see, we got nice little cubes. Ah! Ooh, that almost went on the ground. That was almost dog food. Cool. So it's the oil, salt, pepper, and a little bit of curry powder on there just to kind of start adding that. But you don't want to do too much because we're actually going to sear these first. So let me get the oil hot because this is almost done. Move this. Put this on my back burner here. There we go. Boom. Oil's heating. Cool. Certain oils you don't necessarily want to do that with because they have a low kind of like cooking point or smoking point. So you got to be a little bit careful when you do that because you could burn the oil, which is just generally bad for you. Let's see. I need a small holding unit container, if you will. I guess this will work. So I'm just going to take the little bits of chicken that I have. I'm going to use this cake pan. I'm just going to toss them in there. So now we're going to keep working on chopping up into cubes. Still a little frozen in the middle. We're just going to break it off piece by piece. Nice little breast here. Actually, in the markets here in Peru, it's not like packaged chicken. When I get a chicken, it's like going to the butcher where I have to tell them exactly what cuts I want, how I want them, and everything. So here, I don't necessarily get, like, I have to tell them to cut the breasts off the bone. I could do it myself, but I find that I'm not anywhere near as skilled as the butchers are at chopping. So I just have them do it so that I don't basically waste meat. This way I waste the least amount of meat because they're just really good at it. There is, I can hear the oil is starting to heat up to the point where it's popping. That means there's a little bit of water in there, probably for my hands or something. But yeah, so I probably could learn, and there is merit in learning, and I do recommend that people learn. I don't necessarily have to, which isn't really a good reason. Maybe I should learn to chop the chickens. I've done it before. It also takes a lot of time. And usually when I'm doing things just in life, I usually measure it by time. Like if I was getting paid hourly for this, how much would I want to get paid? Cool. How much was it worth that amount of time? Is cooking to me worth, let's just say $20 an hour? Is this meal that I'm about to make worth $20? Well, if I was to go elsewhere and have someone else cook for me, I'd probably spend $20 to $40. So yes, it is. Because technically I'm saving myself money. I also like to cook, but whenever I'm doing things, I like to break it down in terms of time and money. If my time is currently worth this amount of money per hour, how much is the amount of time I'm spending on this worth it compared to the amount I could pay someone else to do it? Now, obviously, you don't always have that position. You can't always pay someone to, for example, clean your home for you. But it is a good way to think. Like, how can I outsource the things that I have in my life for more time? Because essentially, the only resource that you can't get more of is time. So it's very important that we spend it the way that we want to spend it. Now, I love cooking. I like going live. I like making YouTube videos. So even if I never get anywhere with these, I will most likely keep making them because I just enjoy it. But whenever you're doing something, you want to look at things in terms of time. Now, if this was thawed already or fresh out of the market, I would cut it probably earlier in the day and then marinate it all day. This has just been in the freezer. though, so didn't really have that choice, and I didn't know I was making curry today until, I don't know, not too long ago. Wow, this one's very frozen. It's okay though. It will thaw momentarily. Cool, no smoking, so we're doing okay on the heat on the oil. So now this has been roughly chopped. This chicken has been roughly chopped into cubes. Just break this up a little bit more because some of the pieces weren't fully cut all the way through. It's okay though, they're gonna get knocked around. I'm not being super precise because you don't need to be with this recipe. Just gonna mix them around just in case, because some of the outside pieces have curry powder on it, but the inside don't. So I'm just gonna give it a quick little mix as if it was meatloaf. Cool. I'm gonna hit it with a little extra salt now that it's open, just to try to fully spread the salted flavor, I guess salt in general, throughout it, so that it doesn't come out as bland as far as the chicken goes. Now that we got the salt in there, I'm gonna remix it one last time. We're gonna bring it over here and we're gonna pan sear it. Sounds very organized. It's not gonna be an organized. I'm gonna sear the chicken so that this hand is clean. I'm gonna sear the chicken so that the flavor gets kind of infused in there. You guys are looking at dog food, I think. Okay. This has gotten significantly more difficult since my hand is dirty. Okay, so action shot. This is gonna get a little loud. Boom. Right in there. Now that's cooking. I'm just gonna push it around and I'll show you. There we go. So essentially what I'm doing right now, like I said, I'm searing it, but there's a specific thing and a reason I'm going about it this way. So here it is in the pan, nice and spread out. So the reason I was pushing it around as it was in is because I want the pan to be hot, so the sear forms. So I want it to hit and sear. However, sometimes when you do it this way, the pan gets a little too hot, and then from there, it sticks to the bottom of the pan, which can create burn spots and bad flavor. So really what you want to do is you want to, right when you drop them in, you want to move them around just so that the chicken doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. And then after that, there'll be like a little bit of a thing that forms from the oil that kind of keeps it from continuing to stick. Now, I'm going to get back to chopping onions because that's the next step here. We're actually almost done, believe it or not. A little chicken here. Now the chicken is going to get cooked again, so I'm gonna put it back in the same thing where it was before. I'm gonna put another little bit of vinegar for when it's done, so it can. Some of the flavor has been pulled out, but I don't want the chicken to be flavorless. So I'm gonna put a little bit of vinegar for it to sit in, and that'll be good for now, just to kind of pull out some more of that flavor. Because really the point of what I'm doing by searing it is getting the essence of chicken into what will be the curry. And then after that, having chicken in it. So I want the chicken flavor generally throughout the curry, but I also want the chicken to taste like chicken. It's a fine line that you kind of have to balance. The amount of time that's going to be on there depends on the amount of chicken and what exactly you're doing. For me particularly, I'm just waiting to see that the outsides are white and starting to brown. That's really all I'm doing. While that's happening, I'm going to cut these onions. I actually can clean my hands now that I'm done with that. Quick hand wash break, 1 second. Alright, just a rough hand wash. I'll give a more thorough one later. Cool, couple paper towels. Alright, let me stir this one last time. Right now it smells a little floral in here. It's exactly how it's supposed to smell. Smells a little floral because it's starting to kind of, ooh, there's actually some juices left in here. It's gonna go right on in there as well. Boom. Don't want to miss out on flavor. Cool. Yeah, it smells a little floral in here as some of the curry's starting to cook itself, or some of the curry flavoring on the outside of the chicken is starting to cook itself, but it's not quite time to, roast? Yeah, roast the curry seasoning, so I don't want it to get too much of that flavor. Now I'm cutting the onions. I'm just going to put them back on this pot and dump it in. But essentially what you want the cuts to be is little thin strips like that. Here, let me move it over here. See how it's like thin like this? I think this is called chopped. Not particularly sure on the exact name of this type of cutting. Sliced maybe, actually. But I'm not gonna, it doesn't have to be perfect. They don't have to be the same size at all. They can be roughly sliced. See, like this, much larger, fine. You just don't want it like huge like that, but like, you know, you just want to get these pieces, these slices, boom, like that. Toss that to the side. I'm gonna put all these on the cap. I can smell that the chicken is almost done searing. It's just, I don't know, just something I can smell. It doesn't necessarily sound burnt, but hey, how's it going, Gonzalo? Continuing to slice these up as fast as I can. Don't have to be perfect. Boom. Nice and easy. Toss that on the lid. Again. They can be super thin, they can be super thick. I can't stress enough how much you don't have to stress about the size of the actual slices. Boom. See, that's a rather big one right here. Perfectly fine. I'm just doing a rough slice. I got 3 more here that I can slice. Yummy, yummy. Yeah, curry. It smells good in here. I'm going to give this another quick stir because it's taking a little longer than I thought. We got a couple pieces that are starting to brown, others that are still pink, so just kind of waiting for those two. They don't have to be perfectly uniform, but we're just trying to wait for those to work themselves out. Cool. Another half onion done. 2 more. It's a thick one, but that's perfectly fine. This knife used to be very sharp, but now it is very dull. I had a friend use it, and then they gave it back, and it is dull. I'm not salty about it. I'm a little salty about it, but I'm not salty about it. Cool. Almost done here. Nice. My eyes are on fire, so that's always fun. Here is a visual of the now chopped onions. A nice little pile here right on top of the cap. Let me check that chicken again. Not exactly browns, but that's okay. That will work. Cool. So now I'm going to bring you, I guess, over here. Swoop. Now I'm just going to take and fish the chicken out of here with a slotted spoon and toss them in the old pan where they were chopped, where the old marinade was, and where the vinegar is now. Not a ton, just enough to kind of like allow them to continue to sit in vinegar so the flavors like continue to penetrate the chicken. Almost done here. You have to be careful not to pull the oil out, because that's what we wanted out of this entire process. You might have to add more after finishing this, but yeah. Boom. So that's what the chicken looks like. It's not completely seared. I pulled it a little early, but that's okay. If they're too seared, they're going to be kind of tough, and you don't really want that. But if they're not seared enough, then not enough flavor gets into the bottom of the pan. So I feel like we hit a nice little middle ground of getting flavor into the bottom of the pan while also not overcooking them. Cool. A little more chicken. You don't have to get every single last piece of the chicken out of there, but just like 99% of it. Honestly, it's pretty easy. I'm gonna get the rest here. Cool. So that's our chicken. Now that that is kind of somewhat seared and some of the flavor being pulled out, we're gonna put that back to the side. That's gonna be cooked again. Thank you so much, Inglés con Matt. Go ahead and now we're gonna take these onions, boom, that I had just chopped, boom, right into that chicken fat that we just rendered and seared. We're gonna stir these about a bit. It's looking a little dry, and I'll show you what I mean. If you look in the bottom of this, I don't know if you can see it, but they're kind of just sliding across. And it just feels dry to me. They don't look like they're in oil. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a little bit more of this oil here. Just gonna toss it right on in there. Nice healthy amount. Whenever you're making soups, sauces, curries, anything like that, you want to make sure you have a good amount of oil. Now, really what I'm trying to do with these is I want those to somewhat sear as well. So I want them to get soft and sweat, but then after, how's it going, Tyler? After they sweat, I want them to then start to crispen, just a little bit. Basically, with a lot of dishes from basically East Asia, just Central East Asia, they like to sear their onions. The burnt onion flavor brings a lot of flavor into the dish that you wouldn't normally be able to get. So, here we go. A little garlic we're pulling out of the fridge here. Boom. So, probably should do more than that. That's not very much. One more clove would be fine. Cool. Boom. So, usually 4 medium to large pieces. I am making coconut milk curry. So, technically chicken coconut curry. More of like a Thailand style to it. So, great question, yeah. But when it comes to the actual, what was I saying before? I forget. Oh yeah, searing of the onions. Like pho. I don't know if any of you guys have had pho before. Maybe I should show you what I'm doing with these onions or garlic to make it super easy. But if you've had pho before, a lot of times pho will include heavily roasted and seared onions that are eventually taken out to add flavor. Let me lower this a little bit. A lot of people struggle with chopping garlic. Let's see, can you see the cutting board okay? Yeah, I guess you can. There's a lot of comments there, but let me lower even more, maybe. Boom. Okay, so when you have garlic, some people will go through the trouble of like peeling it, which is fine. That works. Really what I do with the skin on, just crush it. And then after that, it loosens the skin up so much. I'm struggling to get my finger around it. Boom, the garlic just pops right out. And crushing it isn't a huge deal anyway. So now, I'm gonna do that a couple more times. Boom, boom. You just gotta make sure you get all the skin off, because the skin will create a texture and will be unchewable. But if you get all the skin off, this is the easiest way to go about it. Boom, and then one more. Just kind of peel the outside of the skin off, and then boom, garlic done. 4 cloves of garlic in probably under 30 seconds. Clove and ready. Now that it's like that, I'm just gonna roughly chop it. Go back through again. Scrape it together. When it's first smashed, it's a bit hard to roughly chop, but now we should be getting to the point where we're gonna start getting like diced garlic. I don't want it fully diced, I want it rough. Kind of like Italian style. I'm gonna go the other way. I want it generally rough, but that's perfectly fine. Basically, the inconsistencies of the actual garlic creates a lot of personality in the curry and other foods. So, although there are some foods where you want a very specific garlic that has been ground or like very fine, with a lot of dishes, I find that it's better to have it rough chopped because it just brings a personality and a rusticness to the actual food. And we're not a Michelin star restaurant here, so everything doesn't have to be prim and perfect. I like having a random chunk of slightly bigger garlic than before. I'll pop this open, read some of these comments while I stir the onion. Boom. Boom. Okay, what we got here? I've had pho before. Not a big fan of the thin noodles, though. Yeah, personally, I like udon better myself. There's a place in Boston that makes some fantastic udon. I should probably tell you where it is, but honestly, I don't remember. It's right near the BU campus, but I don't remember. So let me give you guys a quick flash into what's going on inside this pan. So if you see at the corners, they're starting to turn a little black. Not completely. I guess you can't fully see it because I put the onions into a mound, but they're starting to get a little. They're starting to get a little bit darkened, and they're starting to sear a little bit. So they're not quite sweated enough. So I have the garlic in my hand. I was going to toss it in. Garlic shouldn't go in too early. If you do that, essentially, it's going to create issues where the garlic gets bitter. So I'm just going to put that back on the cutting board, and we'll leave that for a second. It's healthy, though, with nuts or whatever you put in it. Pho, yeah, it is. I've never had it with nuts, though, but pho is really healthy. Normally when I get pho, I made it at home once or twice, and I will say it was absolutely bangers, but usually it's better if you get it at like a restaurant. Okay, let me see if I can fish out one of these crispied onions. Yeah, I guess that's kind of it. So right here, boom, see how the onion's like changing color? It's not like translucent like this guy, it's like brownish. That's what we want. The onions are almost done sweating, which is good. I'm gonna go ahead and toss a little bit more oil in here just because I want this to thoroughly get sweat. Coconut curry is with the orange sauce, right? It can be. This one isn't going to be, but it can be. It really depends on what you add and where you're at. This one's gonna be more like a yellow curry. One of the reasons why I make it this way, I've made somewhat traditional, I can't say traditional curry, but I made somewhat traditional curry in the past. And I just like the flavor of the coconut better. I do eat milk, I do eat cheese, but just for some reason it turns out better with the coconut curry. So it's a little bit of a hybrid. I just find that it works out better. Got the tomatoes over there, garlic is ready. Cool. So now we're getting to a point where the onions are sweat and seared enough. I don't really have a flashlight. It's getting dark out. So yeah, now I've gotten, adding chicken would be amazing. Yeah, exactly. So now I've got these sweat for the most part. Now is the part where it gets fun. We're gonna add the seasonings. A lot of the seasonings were kind of on the chicken. Obviously, you got your staples, which are salt and pepper. Every dish should have these two things in it. Maybe not every, but 99% of dishes should have this in it. So I hit it kind of heavy with the pepper. Not too heavy. My partner doesn't particularly like super spicy food. But I like to get a little bit in there to get the spice. Usually the cream calms it down. Get a little bit of that in there. Cayenne's super healthy for you, and it adds a little bit of a kick. The more you put in this, the spicier it's going to get. I'm literally doing like a few taps because, again, my partner doesn't particularly like spice, but it's super healthy for you. I think a more traditional curry would have more of this or some other type of pepper in it. I just don't particularly do that. Now I've got the curry powder. Where is the... here it is. So there's two things that need to go in this. They have to. You can't make this without them. You need gram masala and curry powder. Both. You need both. Not one, not the other. You need both. So they have different seasonings in them, but this covers the wide range of curry. So there are other things you can add to make different types of curry. But boom, you need these, and you don't live in India, so you're most likely not going to be able to make your own curry seasoning. It's possible. It's like onion powder, garlic powder, and some other stuff. I guess maybe it's easier than I thought, but still. Honestly, I just buy it. I do make my own rubs, but for this particular thing, I just buy it. Now you want a good healthy amount of this. So we're at this line. Oh, you can't even see it. We're at this line right now. If I was to even it out, we're at this line. So I'm gonna go ahead and I used about half of what I had left. A little bit more. Boom, lots. And I'm gonna hit it with the garam masala, which I have lost again. Boom, right here. Honestly, the seasoning is just kind of something that I feel into, but you hit this one hard too. Now, I'm putting this in before I'm putting the garlic, and I'm doing that on purpose, so I used about a fifth of this bottle as well. Now I'm putting this in before I put the garlic for a reason. What I'm trying to do at this point is now all the seasonings are just on top. It looks like a pile of powder. What I'm gonna do is just stir that in so all of the onions get pretty evenly coated. And what's happening now, it's gonna smell super floral in your kitchen. But now what's happening is all of the onions are being coated and the actual seasoning itself is being roasted. So once that starts happening, that's really where it's gonna kick up the flavor. You want that to happen for about 60 seconds, maybe a little bit more. And you want garlic to cook on its own for about 30 seconds, maybe more. So once you're about halfway done with that 60 seconds, boom, you toss in the garlic. And now we're gonna stir the garlic up. The garlic will continue to kind of like deepen in flavor as time goes on. So we don't have to stress about that too much. Now, what you wanna do is I've got the chicken to the side, chicken's still not going in yet. Now I wanna get these tomatoes that I had strained, that I had peeled earlier. They're nice and cool to the touch now. You're gonna hand squeeze them. Boom, right in there, one at a time. They don't have to be perfect, they can be chunky. As it's cooking, it will calm down. Oh, there's a little skin left on this one. We'll come back to that one. I'm gonna squeeze this one in. Boom. By hand crushed, another one. Boom, hand crushed. Be careful, it will spray everywhere. I've gotten tomato on the ceiling before, so just got to be a little bit careful. Once I'm done with this, I'll have a second to answer some comments. I just have to do this rather quickly. Cool. Boom, and then the last one with a little bit of skin on it. Boom, got it off. Crush it and drop it in. So now there's a pile of tomatoes in here. Boom, like that. I'm gonna stir that in, and that tomato is going to help bring out some of that charred or roasted flavor. You wanna crush and smash and spin around and scrape off the bottom so that all the flavors start coming off. The liquids from the tomatoes should start coming out so that it kind of helps you pull some of the seasoning off the bottom. We want the seared onions that had got stuck, and we want the roasted seasoning that was stuck to the bottom kind of out of there. So now it looks more like this. Looks a lot more soupy. Trying to get the steam out of there so you guys can see. I wish I had a light. I'm so sorry. So now the tomato is going to kind of act as like an agent to help soak up all those flavors and then start like spreading them out. So it's going to create like a flavor mash is essentially what I have of onion, garlic, seasoning, tomato. We're going to give that a few minutes to kind of like marinate. I'm going to read some comments and then I'll show you basically the last steps. And we will wrap this puppy up. Cool. Just wipe my hands down because I don't need to have dirty hands anymore. Cool. All right, let's see what we got in here. Adding chicken would be amazing. I had a smacking cheesesteak earlier. That sounds so good. I haven't had one of those in a while. I would love a cheesesteak. Yes, Angelo, thumbs up. Let those flavors soak in. Yeah. We're kind of letting them marinate right now. I will, since this live is probably going to end before this is literally done, I'm going to give you like oh, thanks. It's very humble, but it seems to work out okay. I appreciate that, Tyler. When this is done, if you're not subscribed to me, subscribe and I'll post a picture of the finished product. But I'm gonna take you guys through like the rest of what you would do. The rest is very easy. After a couple more steps. So now that this has been soaking, we're gonna pull out our coconut cream. Boom, 2 of them, bang bang. We're gonna go ahead and pop these open, and this is where things are gonna get slightly interesting. Honestly, I wonder if I can get you guys up here to watch this. I do like the way that when you pour this in, kind of like the contrast in color is just so nice. Now you don't want to throw this out. Put this to the side. Second one coming in. I'm gonna have to put you down so I can open this. Bang. Again, pouring it in. Love the contrasted color. Cool. Don't throw it out. Put it to the side. I got my little spoon here. You want to be using the same one that you were using before that's got all the different curry flavorings on it. Don't switch spoons. Keep the same spoon. This is the same one that I was stirring the chicken with too. Now we're going to go ahead and stir this in. And quickly the color is going to change from like white to that color, that curry yellow color that you guys can't necessarily see. I'm going to have to tilt it up into the light so you can get a better look at it. There's that curry yellow color. Now that's going to start cooking. Makes the sauce smooth. Yeah, it definitely does. So when you first put in the coconut cream, it's going to have these chunks in it, but those chunks are slowly going to melt and cook in, so you don't really have to stress about that too much. Now, what you want to do, the reason why I told you not to throw out those cans, I'm going to take this off, put it to the side. Now you have to be careful because this is a great time to burn yourself. There's a very high chance you'll burn yourself if you don't do this right. But you're going to take the same can and you're going to take the chicken broth that we were working on. Boom. The chicken broth that has a little bit of a tomato flavor because we also boiled the tomatoes in there. You're going to toss this. You're going to pour it. How do I do this without getting it all over? I'm trying to do this in a cinematic yet... or camera-friendly, maybe not cinematic, camera-friendly, yet safe way. Boom. Yeah, so now I'm going to take this can, and I'm just going to fill the can up with chicken broth. I'm going to take the other can, and I'm going to do the same thing. Pretty much the exact amount of coconut milk that you put in is the amount of chicken broth that you want. So, boom. And I had the perfect amount of chicken broth. There is none left. It's almost like I've done this before. So those cans are going to be super hot. Super, super, super hot. And the reason I'm telling you that is because I've burnt the ever-loving crap out of myself many times doing this. And that's why I can't feel my fingers anymore. So get something that's going to keep you from burning yourself. Can I touch this without burning myself? Wow, even I can feel that. Yeah, it's still super hot. Cool, so I'm going to grab something so I don't burn myself. Now, what we're doing is, first of all, it happens to be the exact amount. So this is the exact amount of broth that I need. Number one, boom. Number one, boom. Moving on to number two here. Number two. Boom. So the reason why you're going to do that on the can is 2 reasons. The first one is it just has the perfect amount so that you have the right amount. Basically, it's a 1-to-1 on milk when it comes to this. So that's the first one. The second reason is because all of that extra coconut curry cream that coconut cream that you would have missed now gets melted into the broth and pulled out, so you get every ounce of that coconut milk out. Coconut milk is so good. It's so creamy. Yeah, it's really good. So now, I guess I'm gonna wrap this up. Now that that's kind of all in there, we're now gonna take the chicken once again. Once the broth is in there, you're gonna take the chicken and you're gonna dump that back in with all that vinegar flavor and everything. So, not a ton of vinegar. I guess watch this video on my, it's a long video. I don't know if anyone's gonna watch the whole thing, but watch the video on my channel to get like the play-by-play. But essentially now what we're doing is everything's in. I'm gonna give you a look. Right now, it is super soupy for what curry is. So what you wanna do is you want to allow it to simmer for a bit so that all of that extra water evaporates out, so that it basically condenses the flavor. You're basically further condensing that chicken flavor into the curry. From here on out, what this is gonna look like is, let me take a seat because I am now tired. What that's gonna look like is about 20 or 30 minutes from now. I guess I could make cooking videos. I don't that wasn't necessarily on my list of things that I was gonna do, but I definitely could. Some people find cooking interesting, some don't. So I might do that in the future. But essentially what this is gonna look like is about 20 to 30 minutes from now, it's gonna have a thicker, more curry style, like, consistency. You really want it to be somewhere in between, like, almost like maple syrup, but like a little bit thinner. Like, I guess like real maple syrup, not like the thick stuff that comes out of like the Aunt Jemima's bottle. That's not real maple syrup, but like maple syrup. So it's got a little bit of a viscosity to it, but it's not super, super thick. Trying to think, maybe like a chocolate milk kind of like consistency. So it's thick and you can feel resistance, but it's not like completely like just Jello. You want it to be closer to water than Jello. After that, once it reaches that point, we're gonna season it again. So I would normally put in a little bit of curry or garam masala based off of how it tastes. Really, at that point, you want to flavor it to the taste in which you want. I think that soups and curries are some of the easiest things for beginners to learn. The reason being, if you mess up the flavoring, later you can fix it. So once the curry is done marinating and once the curry is done like rendering and getting more viscous, I can now fix the flavor by adding, there's basically some balancing acts that you got to run whenever you're trying to do this. So let's say you got the curry done and it's bland. First thought, add salt. Salt enhances all flavors across the board. Yeah, seasonings can make or break the curry dish. It's definitely true. Bland, the first thing you want to do is salt. When you drop the salt in there, that's going to bring all the flavors up in general. After you put the salt in, now we need to look. Does it taste like flat? Flat would also be considered needing to add salt. After that, like once it's been salted and you start to taste like the salty taste, you don't want it to get to the point where it's super salty. But if you do, the reason why soups are really easy is you just add more water, or curries are really easy. You just add more water and boom, now it's no longer too salty. Now that's not like a super quick fix. If you add way too much salt and you add too much water, now you just have soup. You're gonna have to pivot the whole dish. But once you add some salt to try to bring up the flavor, you'll know when you're starting to get to the right salt amount, because it won't necessarily be saltwater-y, but it'll start getting to like a very, you know what salty is for you. I do find that 99% of home cooks put not enough salt. That's like 99%, just not enough salt in their dishes. They undersalt it because they're afraid they're gonna oversalt it, and then it ends up being bland. That's most of you guys know how to use flavors, you just don't know how to use salt, and that's really it. Salt is dangerous and it's kind of scary, but just lean into it. The next thing is, there's a few different flavors I'm looking for. If it tastes a bit acidic, you might want to drop in some sugar. Sugar is going to help balance out that acidic flavor and bring it kind of to a more neutral, so a lot of the inner flavors can pop out. If it doesn't taste floral enough, or if it tastes not super bright, you can add a little bit more curry powder or garam masala. That will bring up the vibrancy of the actual dish, not too much. And if it tastes kind of like too sweet, you have two options. You can add lime or you can add vinegar. Those are gonna kind of balance it. So those are your few flavors, and then the edamame flavor is already in there, which would have been from the chicken or any fat. If you needed to add more fat, you technically could. I don't really have that option. There are plenty of things like at Costco, there's like a bouillon chicken soup, where if you basically add the bouillon chicken soup to your curry, it would bring the edamame flavor. I don't necessarily recommend it, but you can.
But yeah, it just kind of turns into like a balancing act. Lemon is good, depends on the dish though. Yeah, curry does way better with lime because gram masala actually has cilantro seeds, or what is the other word for that? Cilantro seeds, but there's another word for cilantro. Coriander. Yeah, coriander seeds in it. So coriander and lime go way better together than lemon and coriander do. You can technically do it, but lime just kind of does better. So a lot of dishes that have coriander or cilantro in it will have lime instead of lemon. Um, Also, for those of you that are at home and looking for something that you can do that's new, if you like papaya, when you go home, there's two things. Next time you get a papaya, there's two things you can add that'll make it way better. First one, squeeze lime on top of your papaya. The way that the flavors interact is so good, you guys will not be disappointed. I don't like papaya, but I do like it when it has lime on it. It's okay. It's not my favorite. The second one, a couple scoops of cottage cheese right in the middle of the papaya after all of the seeds have been taken out adds a lot to the flavor as well. There's a couple good things. Anyway, I think this is like the longest live I've done by probably double. But it was fun cooking with you guys. I'm gonna take a photo and put it on my page. All of the other subscribers that I have are gonna be like, question mark, why is there just a random picture of curry? But for you guys, you will know. So keep an eye out for that. I have to start the rice because pretty soon the curry will be done. Any last minute questions, go ahead and toss those in while I give this another quick stir. And then I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Cool. Yeah, thank you so much for coming, Tyler. I appreciate it. No pepper for me. Yeah, spicy foods. You don't like spicy foods. How's Peru right now? Peru is good. It's starting to get, the temperatures are starting to even out because we're starting to get to wet season, and it seems like when it's wetter here, just the I guess the introduction of water controls the temperature a little bit better. But it's starting to rain a little bit, but it's really nice. It's really nice right now. Mangoes are back in season, so I'm getting 2 pounds of mangoes for like $2, and basically eating a mango every single day. Avocados are back in season as well, or paltas if you're here in Peru, and those are good too. I've been getting like ciabatta bread from a local bakery and just tossing the avocado on the ciabatta bread. It seems like it's been a heat wave there for like months. You guys have been struggling out there. That's rough. But I hope you guys cool down. I have family in Florida, so I think they would be begging for a heat wave right now. Things are really crazy over there with all the hurricanes, for those of you that are plugged in. My family is safe for now. No, but my family is safe currently, and everything's going well. But yeah, they're getting hit a little bit by the hurricanes. But otherwise, yeah, my throat is killing me, so I think I'm gonna close this up. I appreciate you guys. Prayers for the people in Hurricane Alley. Yes, seriously, prayers for real. I hope they're at least making some curry right now and enjoying their time, but definitely prayers. I appreciate you guys. This video hopefully will upload itself. The live will hopefully upload itself soon, but otherwise I will see you guys soon. Have a great night.